Good day to all of you wonderful people to episode 56 of Weird Mind Newsroom, where this week, as per usual, I'll be giving the rundown of what you'd expect from the new releases for this week, the trailers that have appeared in the information superhighway, and the mixed array of news stories from the past week and this week. So, let's not waste too much time and let's get to talking about the content of this week.
Oh my gosh, I'm anxiety. Where can I put my stuff?
So starting off the week with the big film release this week, and we're checking in and wondering how our emotions are doing, as after a near decade-long gap, it's time to return to the mind of Riley as we receive a sequel to Pixar's Inside Out 2. The film will take place a year after the events of the original and see Riley's emotions of joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger deal with the new concerning aspect of puberty and growing up with many new worries. And that worry comes in the form of new emotions of envy, ennui, embarrassment, and their leader of anxiety. Soon the original emotions get suppressed and taken over by the new group, and we'll soon see the group make their way back to headquarters before they change Riley for the worse. Reception for this film, like the original of course, has been very well received, with praise for its voice cast, its animation, its humor, its heart, with some small critiques that not all the new emotions get much of a screen presence, and some see as not as major the tearjerkers as the original, but still worth a watch and still worth a few tears. And if you want to get in touch with your emotions again, you can catch this new film out now in cinemas. On the television, and a fire will rise and a battle of two sides are about to begin, as after a near 2-year gap, it is time to return to Westeros for the second season of the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. This will follow on from the end of the first season as a civil war rise between Queen Rhaena Targaryen and Queen Aegon II, or more particularly with his mother of Queen Alicent, as the councils of Green and Black go to war with one another, all on the chance to find who will sit upon the Iron Throne and rule the Seven Kingdoms. Reception of the second season so far has been well received for the series, with praise for building on the spectacle and emotional stakes that will lead to an all-out war for the throne. And knowing as well that they also announced that there is a third season coming, they announced that I think a couple days ago, that we will be getting a continuation series. It will in most cases build to for a while, and I hope this season will stick the landing. And if you want to check it out for yourself, it's available to watch on HBO Max in the US and on Sky Atlantic from early Monday morning, which is about 2 AM to be exact. So might try and stay up for that maybe later. Following up on the first half of the season a month ago, it is time to return to the third season of Bridgerton for the remaining part of the season and see Lady Penelope continue her love and romance with her love for Colin, while also hoping to accept of her secret penned identity of Lady Whistledown. While the first half had a bit more of a mixed reception, part 2 of the season seems to have fared a little better from the underwhelming first half, which has still been bolstered by the strong performances of Nicola Coughlan and Luke Newton. And also a case where supposedly a lot of people said that the long-awaited sex scene of the two of them is apparently the steamiest one of the series. That's what I've heard. And if you want to see how the season will wrap up, and then you can catch the full third season now on Netflix. Now it's time to bring the pain, and things are about to get messy. I know for sure it's gonna get messy because I'm at wit's end. I'm about to do it. Yes, because after a 2-year gap, it's finally time to return to the world where powerful beings live amongst us, and may be wise to take them down by any means necessary, as we have now received the 4th season of The Boys. This new season is getting political, as Victoria Newman is easing closer and closer to the White House and under the muscly thumb of Homelander, who's trying to deal with control while also coming to terms with mortality and for being a father to his estranged son Ryan. Meanwhile, Butcher is dealing with his own demons, with months to live from the effects of Temp V, as him and the boys must learn to deal with their differences and save the world before it's all too late. Reception for this season, like the other seasons, have been very well received for its approach of satire, its story, its shock value, and the performances of the cast, with this technically having the lowest reception of the series so far due to the more political story, but that's what happens when the real world and their world and their world combine to make a hodgepodge of mess. But if you want to see how messy things will get, you can catch the first 3 episodes out now on Amazon Prime, with a new episode releasing every Thursday. Of all that, that's all the new releases that we have for this week.
It's called a hard stare. My aunt taught me to do them when people had forgotten their manners.
So on the trailer sides of things for this week, the first one, we are finding ourselves lost in the wilderness with an unlikely protector that will learn to become more than they ever will be. And this comes in the form of a new trailer for Dreamworks' 4th film, of the Wild Robot. This plot will follow Roz, a robot that finds itself shipwrecked on a desert island after the effects of a typhoon, and will soon have to learn to adapt to their new surroundings that will lead to Roz to build relationships with some of the native animals, like a fox and a few other animals in the forest, as well as become a parental figure for a young orphan gosling. Soon, when the company that created Roz tries to take her back and destroy her new home and reprogram her, she must become the protector for everyone on the island and save her home. Now, I think there is one thing that I can agree upon, and that this looks visually beautiful. It's giving me like Spider-Verse or Puss in Boots 2 animation aesthetic look to it, and it looks like it has a very wholesome and wonderful little story coming from this studio, and I, for one, I'm excited to check this out. Like, the first trailer really appealed to me and actually made me feel emotional, and there's a bit of emotion with this one as well, and it does look great. I might have to read the books. I know there's a couple of books about this series, so I'll give it a look. But I'm looking forward to check this one out when it's released in cinemas on October 18th. Not sure if it's still with that Transformers 1 to make another Barbenheimer thing, but I'll see. Next up is finally giving many the long-awaited follow-up and conclusion to a surprise adaptation hit from 3 years ago for a game that is known for a divisive fan base in its own normal forms, as we have finally gotten our first look at the second season to the League of Legends series of Arcane. Now, not much is known on the likes of the plot for this upcoming second part, but will most cases lead on from the end of the first season, which will see the continued story of two well-known characters from the series, which is Vi and Jinx. I think I might be saying Vi wrong, I don't know. Things in the likes of plot are being kept under wraps, which I completely understand, and I'm sure by the time the series comes out and strikes with so much more brilliant animation that we will know how the whole thing plays out. It's also confirmed as well this is the final season, so it's understandable. You can't make it go on too long, which is fair enough. While no date has been announced as of yet, it is confirmed that we will see this new season drop onto Netflix sometime this November. Oh, apologies, where are my manners? As it's time for a bit of kindness and to be respectful for one another, as what this lovely little bear has taught us before in the past, as after a bit of silence, we have finally received the first trailer for the upcoming third film of the marmalade-loving bear with Paddington in Peru. This new film will see Paddington and the Brown family head off across the globe to deepest Peru to visit Aunt Lucy at the home of retired bears. But when they arrive and discover she has gone off on a journey to find something deep in the jungles, the Brown family and their little bear will head off onto the grand adventure to find Aunt Lucy and discover what secrets the jungle holds. Now, I've been very much anticipating this third film because I won't lie, I love the first two films, as they are sweet, wholesome, charming, and I'm not gonna lie here, Paddington 2 did make me cry. It just, every time I watch it, I get emotional watching.
Paddington 2 is incredible.
Yeah, and I will not be ashamed to say that I am very much looking forward to checking this film out when it drops around Christmas time on November 8th. And the final trailer for this week is bringing it back to an animated project that for a while I actually nearly forgot about. Especially remembering the aspect of this being mature and the ending of this film being quite an experience to watch in the cinema with an audience because it is something to behold. But it is returning to a world where food is taking over, as we've gotten a trailer for the new animated sequel series of Sausage Party Foodtopia. Now, this follows on from the original film, with the food fighting back against the humans and building a society for all food kind. But things are not that simple and become more apparent once the rain comes and wipes out a lot of the society. So in order for them to fix the mess that has been left behind, Frank, Brenda, Barry and Sammy Bagel will go on a quest to find another dumb human to help them out their situation. It's come to the case that this series was bound to happen, and will of course also have a case that is still be as crass and crude as the original film, if you can probably see from a bit of footage here, but I will be giving a look when this releases in just under a month's time on July 11th. And with all that, that's all the trailers that we have for this week.
I play video games!
On the news side of things, we start off all the news stories on the mixed variety with talking about the head honchos for any project, and that comes in the form of some directors' discussions. As we have a bit of an announcement, some drama, and some people dropping out of content, I'll be giving them all a quick discussion here. So we shall start with the first bit of news, and this comes to the story at the end of last week that I didn't have time to put in, but this comes into the relation of Bong Joon-ho's upcoming new film of Mickey 17. So, I mentioned a while ago that the film was initially planned for release in late March of this year, but then about 2 months out, they delayed it to January of next year. Initially, the theory as to why they did this was to avoid a competition with the studio's big tentpole film of Dune Part 2, but now the reason it has to do with a bit of meddling from the studio of Warner Bros. as per usual. You see, the reported reason now for this film getting a delay is that they are wanting the Oscar-winning director to make a more accessible cut of the film, but it seems the director is trying to stand his ground. And this is once again shown that Warner Bros. Just cannot seem to stop themselves from interrupting with the film project, as seen with 2016 Suicide Squad, the ending of Wonder Woman, the 2017 Justice League, Birds of Prey, all the other cancelled animated projects, Batgirl, and Kaido for Zakmi, and many more. Which seems like a recurring theme with this company that said they were the only two storytellers left in the industry, and I report back to a video from a while back where I made that joke. The fact that they are trying to interfere with another cut for a film from a director that garnered mass awards for their last film is really scummy, and hopefully Bong will keep his full vision released and not in a butchered mess. Speaking of a director that many seem to say that he was fucked over by the company, we are now talking on a director with the questionable fan base and love for slowing things down, as we are talking on Zack Snyder. If you are aware, he did release 2 films in the span of the last 6 months of his new sci-fi series of Rebel Moon that were met with a mixed response, mainly where a lot of critics, audiences, and even some Snyder fans feeling disappointed in it, and other basically Snyder fans calling it better than Dune Part 2 and even the greatest sci-fi of all time. That's debatable. But now you may have seen some appeal of anticipation for some, as it was announced this week that we have the confirmation of the titles and release date for his director's cut for his duology, and a month before his new animated Norse God series. So it is confirmed that Rebel Moon Part 1, Chalice of Blood, and Part 2, Curse of Forgiveness, will be both releasing on the same day on August 2nd. Most case with this is that they will be an hour longer and clocking in around 3 hours, and I will say more than half of the extra hour is probably slow-mo, because if I know correctly from what I've seen from Moist Critical's video, he went back and watched Part 2, and apparently it's about 20 to 30 minutes of this film is literally slow-mo, so it could be longer, I have no idea. Now I haven't had the energy to watch Part 2 yet, but I've heard it was bad, and after being so underwhelmed by Part 1, it has taken me some time to do so, but I will eventually, and maybe do a double feature review for it at some point, and a separate short one for the director's cuts, but I will see on that. And also, as I mentioned as well, he has another project coming out known as Twilight of the Gods, which will be dropping in late September. I think it's the 19th or something. The next story is going to be a short one. This is in relation to the somewhat unnecessary sequel from Pixar in the form of Toy Story 5. Now, we know that the film is projected for release in 2 years' time in the summer of 2026, and since then, not much has been announced until this week, as there's been some possible confirmation as to who will be directing this entry, and may have been confirmed to be in the form of Andrew Stanton. Now, he's no stranger to Pixar. He's directed some of the most finest films, including Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, as well as director of WALL-E and co-director for A Bug's Life. Plus, he is familiar with a series of films, having written the story and scripts for the 4 previous entries, so he seems more than capable for the job. It's unclear of what the story for this film will entail and whether it's going to be a films in the series that would be retconned or it's going to be set between one of them or something, but I guess we'll have to find out when this continues deep into development. And the final story for the director's news is coming to us from the expansive universe of the MCU, and this comes with the film of Blade. It's been seen that the film has been announced 5 years ago in 2019, and since then the project has been going through a bit of a messy development, and looks like the film may be still having some issues, as it was announced on Wednesday that the second Blade director of Yann Demange has also left the project. Apparently he has been left from the project for a short while now, and it seems they may have to do with their vision for the film not going anywhere, which is what happened with the original director, because the film was apparently barely 100 minutes long. Blade was more of a side character in his own film and had very little action. It's gotten so messy that even Marshall Ali's agent or lawyer has said that has been a mess as to what's going on. This could be reported rumor that as yet the initial meeting of the studio with Oscar winner Jordan Peele was about from last week, as they could be getting him to direct this film, but we'll have to see when it turns out. Most cases, I can see this film getting delayed out of its late 2025 release and into like 2026 or later from all of this cause. It really seems like everything's a mess for the Vampire Hunter. But what are your own thoughts of all these stories and directors, and what are your opinions on each of their stories discussed? Let me know what you think of it down below. This next story will be a whole lot shorter than the following story, as I'm just going to give it a few updates about some new adaptations or updates of announcements that have come out based on things. So first is a small update relating to one of the new releases this week, and of course with The Boys. Now a few weeks ago I made mention that the series was being renewed for a 5th season, but more new info has come out in the light that this season will of course be the final one of the main series. As a day before the premiere, one of the showrunners uploaded an image above of redacted info for the final episode of the season with a tease to say, "See you next season, motherfuckers," for the final run. It's expected that we're bound to find a closing point for the show, given some of the big names have been either killed off or retired, and depending on how this season will go, will lead to probably an all-out messy war of a dark final season, but I guess we'll have to see when all the series continues on. Another little brief update is on the side of DC in the realm of the Reeves verse. As well, there's known the Batman sequel is another 2 years out, and it's also now been confirmed, or rumored now that we'll be filming parts 2 and a part 3 back to back sometime next year, we do have a little update on one part that is on the way this year, and that's of course with the upcoming series based on The Penguin. As it's been confirmed earlier this week that the series will be premiering sometime this September, which will work well given it's after House of the Dragon is all finished for another season and in a prime start of the fall season. So I for one decided to find the official date and plan out to watch it with some important people and stuff to see what the story will provide. And the last announcement is on the side of some animated cartoon adventures, as it's been denounced the likes of the shows of The Amazing World of Gumball, Adventure Time and Regular Show will all be getting a returning form in either a new film, a series or spin-off, or a mix of all of them at once and releasing sometime over the next few years. While this is exciting, it will have to be seen if Warner's will actually release them and not push the animation to the side and give them a chance, like all the other stuff they cancelled. But we will have to see what the outcome of these projects come as they get deeper into development. But what are your thoughts on all these new announcements, and are you excited for any of these announcements in particular? Let me know what you think of it all down below in the comments. So you may want to strap in for this next story, because this one is going to be a long one. So one of the big stories of this week is, of course, we got the likes of the E3 replacement last week with Summer Games Fest, and one or two other conferences from this week. And while I have not much to delve on with one of them, I will give the big announcements, the two other big ones, as some big announcements.
Gotta go fast.
So I'll give a brief rundown. The Ubisoft Forward one was kind of pretty much a letdown. All they really show was about 2/3 of it were made up of just Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws gameplay. There was DLC announcement for Avatar, the new Avatar game, DLC expansions for both Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, The Rogue Prince of Persia, as well as confirmation that we are getting that long-awaited Set to Time remake in 2026. Other stuff, there was the Anno 117 series was getting a new game with Pax Romania, there was new content for Crew Motorfest, new content for Sea of Thieves, and basically that was everything. There wasn't even anything with Beyond Good and Evil 2, there was nothing with Rayman, there was nothing with Just Dance or anything, which is surprising. So that was basically everything in Ubisoft. So kind of underwhelming, but let's get on to the other two that actually were good. So starting with Summer Games Fest, the first announcement came in the form of the new game from the LEGO game developers, and it's coming to us in the form of a game based on another popular game with LEGO Horizon Adventures. This will see Aloy and Co go on a quest to save their home inhabitants from the mechanized animals, all in the fun LEGO form, as we confirmed for release in the holiday season this year for PC, PS5, and even for Nintendo Switch. And I wonder if people are going to be complaining about the questionable look of Aloy, given that they also complained about how she looked a bit chubby in the face in the second game. Following this, they announced a sequel to the 8-player co-op zombie shooter of No More Room in Hell 2, which will be announced with a reveal trailer, and you can try it out for yourself in early access playthrough coming later this year at Halloween. Following this was a return to the Wizarding World, and if you felt that last year's Hogwarts Legacy was lacking in the sportsmanship of Quidditch, then you're in luck, as I feel we may be receiving a sequel to the PS2/Xbox original era Quidditch game with a new Quidditch Champions game, with an all-new release coming out on September 3rd for PS5, Series X and S, Switch, and PC. We then see a look at the next project from the creator of indie hit Choo Choo Charles with Cuff Bus that will see you play as a small koala bear-like creature with a group of friends must find a way to bust out of prison. It seems cute and simple, and it's projected for release next year on PC. Next on the list was with Star Wars, but we already mentioned this game already, so following that we will have a new indie game of Neva that will have you play as a woman who comes across a wolf cub and goes on a journey across a beautiful, colourful world, and this looks stunning, and will be coming out later this year for PS5, Series X and S, and Switch and PC. After an initial leak a couple weeks ago, we finally unveiled that the 7th entry in the Sid Meier's gaming Grammy-winning game series of Civilization was be coming back for a 7th series, and will be getting a release on consoles and PC sometime next year. Next was unveiling of a release date for the upcoming Black Myth Wukong game, where you play as the Monkey King, and has announced the release of August 20th for PS5 and an Xbox at a later date. The next thing after that was the announcements of 3 quick succession, with the first surprise reveal release of Asgard's Wrath 2 VR released on the night. Then they showed a reveal of a new sci-fi fantasy shooter of Only Human with release on July 9th for PC, and then the unveiling of release of the sequel to Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2 coming out on September 9th on PS5, Series X and S, and PC. Coming from the studio behind Persona 3, 4, and 5 is a new game with Metaphor Refantasio coming out on October 11th that will see you with land of Eurortia and a battle for the chance of a role for the new king of the land that will be coming out for PS4, 5, Series X and S, and PC. Next, it was time to don the cowl and become the knight, as we have received an official story-based trailer for the upcoming VR title of Batman Arkham Shadows that will see we set between Arkham Origins and Asylum around 2 years afterwards, and set on the 4th of July and see Batman go on a mission to save Jim Gordon, Harvey Dent, and other political officials being executed on what is known as a Day of Wrath, a new villain known as the Rat King, and his cultish devotees, and will be released onto the MetaQuest 3. I'm not sure if it's on the 2 as well, sometime this fall. They then showed some footage of the next wave of characters that will be making an appearance in the Year 2 content for Street Fighter 6. Next on the list then was a co-op that will be inspiration for Braveheart in the mind, as a new co-op game of Tears of Metal that will be set in Scotland, have you fighting dragons, and will be releasing onto PC sometime soon. They unveiled a new look at the next Dragon Ball fighting game, as well as release date for the 11th of October for that game, for consoles and for PC. Let's go home, boys.
Mission accomplished, let's go home.
As it was time for a new look at the upcoming release in the long-running Delta Force series with Hawk Ops and the confirmation of early alpha tests in the summer of this year for PC. And then the next three announcements came in the form of a new fighting game of Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, releasing next year on PS4, 5, Series X, and S, and PC. Then they showed off a game of Battle Crush, which will be releasing in early access on July 27 on the Switch. And then we will be followed by a new Gundam game of Mecha Break, and we're releasing in the closed beta on PC sometime this August. We then got away with some new games coming to us from the horror film studio of Blumhouse, with their selection of games such as the Chrysler Theater of Idols, Grave Seasons, Sleep Awake, Fear the Spotlight, The Simulation, and Project C. They'll all be coming out sometime this soon. Now, a game based on a series that has been getting a little fucked over by the brand that owned the rights to them, so fuck Hasbro for cancelling the 2017 sequel, the Netflix reboot, and everything else for this concept. They unveiled a new Power Rangers game known as Rita's Rewind that will be making its way to consoles and PC sometime soon. Following this came a new somber but beautiful looking game known as Deer and Boy, of a small boy looking after a baby deer and escaping from a world of magic, and we'll see the deer grow as the game progresses, and has no release date yet, but I'm sure it'll be a true indie darling. Following this, unveiled a new look at the horror game of Slitherhead, and be fighting against parasites and other creatures, and will be releasing on the consoles and PC sometime on November 8. The most unexpected thing, and a thing you probably would find at 3am with the boys, is a new game based on the character of Killer Bean, which will be a third-person shooter coming out in early access this summer. Then he unveiled a look at the new perilous mountain climbing game of Karn that will show the dangers of the experience and based on the history of one of the developers, and will be coming out sometime soon. The next game is a game from the creators of Stanley Parable called Wonderstop, where you run a tea shop, and it'll be coming out sometime later this year, I believe. Next was a story trailer for the new game of Unknown 9 with Awakening as you travel from the real world to a separate dimension called The Fold, and will be available this autumn on consoles and PC. Besides a new look at the Monster Hunter remakes that released this week on the consoles, they also unveiled a new look at the new game of Inotria, which will be getting a release on PS5 and PC on September 19th. They then showed off the third-person shooter game of The First Descendant, of you being the group that will make it a mission to preserve humanity, with the releasing on July 2nd of this year. The game studio of Inner Sloth unveiled both a new funding campaign called Outer Sloth to help fund for upcoming game developers, as well as showing a small bit of animation for their upcoming new animated series based on their smash hit game of Among Us coming out later this fall. They then showed off some new gameplay footage for the upcoming Sonic Generations remaster, which also shows a new bit of gameplay for that Shadow expansion, as well as a new release date of October 25th for all consoles and PC. They then showed off a new story trailer for the upcoming new open world MMO game based on Frank Herbert's Doom, which will be releasing sometime soon for PS5, Series X and S and PC. And the last one shown unveiled at this games conference was a DLC expansion for Alan Wake 2, with Night Springs dropping the day after the conference on June 8th. So that's everything from Summer Games Fest. So let's get on to the Xbox Showcase as the final one. Now personally, I think Xbox really went all out with this conference. So they started off with an unveiling of the first official look at this year's Call of Duty title, with a return to the Black Ops series of Black Ops 6, putting us in the Gulf War of the 90s, and will be dropping sometime on the 25th of October. Next, it was time to rip and tear as they announced they were getting a new entry in the Doom franchise with the Dark Ages that will be new weapons, new worlds, and even a mech and flying sections, and it looks rad. And props to the modding community of the classic Doom game for putting that new Saw Shield into the classic game an hour after the announcement. They were quick. I have a new big game for 2025. Now all we need is Nintendo to announce a new Animal Crossing game to come out the same day and bring back that little wholesome crossover. They unveiled a new look at the upcoming State of K3 was shown on the way, but no release date has been shown so far. They then received a look at the returning world to Dragon Age with a new retitled game of the Veil Guard, which will be making its way to consoles and PCs coming out this fall. They then unveiled some new DLC expansion for the newest series from Bethesda with the Shattered Space DLC for Starfield. They'll be coming out sometime later this year, along with some new updates coming along as well. And another one from Bethesda was that some new expansion for Fallout 76 will be launching with the new wave known as the Skyline Valley, which will be released sometime soon, as well as the ability to play as the Ghoul sometime next year. Next was a new unveiling of a new title with a new turn-based RPG of the game of Claire Obscure Expedition 33 that is set for release in 2025 and does look visually appealing and looks really fun. The studio behind We Happy Few Den, a game I will play on this channel eventually, unveiled their new fantasy bio-based game of South of Midnight that looks visually appealing and making its way to consoles and PC sometime next year. They then showed a cinematic for the next World of Warcraft expansion of The War Within that will be releasing on August 26th. They then afterwards showed some gameplay for the remake of Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater and does look pretty great. Currently has no release date, but I've heard either a fall 2024 release from a leak from GameStop in the US or an early 2025 release at the latest. Sea of Thieves got an update about their next expansion of the new season, let you play as an evil villain pirate that will be coming out later this summer. They then released an announcement of a release date for the upcoming Souls-like based game of Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, which will be dropping into console and PCs on July 18th. The creators of Age of Empires have brought a new retold form of history with a focus on the gods and legends of old, with Age of Mythology that will be seeing a release later this year on September 4th. Then, of course, Joanna Dark was back after nearly a 20-year silence for the series, as an all-new upgrade entry in the Perfect Dark series made its presence known, with some new look at the gameplay for the next entry, and it does look really great. And I, for one, will give this a try over time and will be dropping sometime soon. No release was given for it yet. More new content for this year of the old entry of Diablo 4 will be getting an all-new expansion for the title with the Vessel of the Hatred that will be bringing some dark and spoopy looking scares when it drops on October 8th of this year. There was an all-new look at the next entry in the Dormant Fable series will now have a confirmed release for 2025, and it seems a little bit of the internet has stopped giving out about the character's look, so that's a positive. And next was an announcement of a new 5v5 based shooter with based with cards called Fragpunk coming out sometime next year. Next was a new simple peaceful looking indie game of Winterborough where you play as a small boy mouse as he must rebuild a new burrow after returning to their home in devastation, and the process of rebuilding must find their lost aunt, and it seems like a cute little adventure that will be coming out sometime next year. The new coming of age tale told for the power of music was announced in the form of the game known as Mixtape, which is also coming out in 2025, followed by an announcement of a new entry in the Microsoft Flight Simulator coming out later this year on the 19th of November. A new entry in the ever-expanding Life is Strange series has been unveiled in the form of a murder mystery whodunit with double exposure that'll be releasing just in time for Halloween on October 29th. It was then time for a new globe-trotting adventure as a new look at the upcoming game of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle of some of the new locales you'll be exploring in the game was shown when it releases sometime as well later this year. Another Souls-like game set in the Ming Dynasty was unveiled with Wu Chang Fallen Feathers that will be slashing its way to consoles and PCs sometime next year. A new story trailer for the upcoming release of the new fantasy game of Avowed was shown off with a confirmed release that is coming out in 2024, still confirmed for this year. A new single-player survival post-apocalyptic game set in the UK with Atomfall was unveiled at the event, which was coming out I believe at the end of this year or sometime in 2025. They then showed some new gameplay footage of the new look at the upcoming sequel in the Stalker series with the Hearts of Chernobyl franchise, showing some more of the game before release on the console piece on September 5th, and the final game announced after the all-new announcement of an all-digital Series X and a 2TB version coming out later this year. They ended everything with the unveiling of a new game in the Gears of War series with a new prequel known as E-Day that is on its way and will probably release later next year or 2026. And after that, everything that was unveiled in a surprisingly interesting and really surprisingly good conference for the most part. And that's everything from the Games Fest.
Finish!
So, what are your thoughts about all this, and is there any in particular you're looking forward to the most? Let me know what you think of it all down below and let's discuss them there. Now, the final story is based on some drama that has come from the aftermath of a release. Was meant to bring this up last week and has all come from the basis of a true story, allegedly. So, if you've been on the internet for or on the streaming services for the last little few weeks, you may remember there was a small limited series that really took off on the internet, and that was in the form of the Netflix series of Baby Reindeer, which has told the story of the show's creator and lead star's situation of how one simple kind gesture to a sad young woman led to a serious stalker behavior from the woman known as Martha that consisted of him being bombarded with 41,000 emails, 350 voicemails, over 100 hours of voicemails, 106 letters, and a certain amount of tweets over the course of what may have been 2 years and more, and was all shown in this limited series. Now, the internet being the internet apparently found the real Martha, and she soon spoke out by going on Piers Morgan's talk show where she denied saying that amount of emails and her stuff, though mentioned she had contacted him by email before. Many flaws in the near hour-long interview, which you can find here on YouTube and you can find in the description below, started to pop up, including the questionable logical way that she could send that many emails, as she mentioned she had 4 to 6 phones, and a lot of other stuff where her story seemed to have changed, and since then, she has made some responses to what I've saw on images of her social media, on her Facebook and stuff, and looks like she's not backing down from any of this, as earlier last week, it was announced that Martha was planning to sue Netflix and Richard Gadd for a lump sum of around £142 million or $175 million for damages. While this seems like a logical thing to approach on the cusp of suing for possible slander and other means, it does bring the question that they will have to present the 41,000 emails and everything else into court, and will be surprised if they see this to be true. But in my experience, it looks like more towards the basis that they may be a thing she did, as around the same time the lawsuit went out, another victim of Martha's, whose husband and herself was harassed by her, and she nearly caused child services to take the woman's baby to be taken away for false reports of abuse, went went on Pierce's talk show and gave her input on the matter, and it's shocking to hear that this woman's level of harassment is quite messy and scary to deal with. It remains to be seen at the moment if this whole trial will go ahead, but I will update if there is any more news about it all. But I'd like to know your thoughts. What are your opinions on this whole outcome? Do you think this will happen, or do you think this will be all a bit of a mess? Let me know what you think down below, and with all of that, that's everything that was on the news for this week. And now with all of that, that brings me to the end of a probably very overlong episode of Weird Mind Newsroom. I do hope you enjoy listening to my ramblings for this episode. So a few updates. I will get back onto some reviews. Just been, you know, in and out of things the last week or so. It's been a lot. I have another episode of Hogwarts Legacy out. As you can see with the technical difficulties one of part 4. Part 5 should be out later. By the time I'm recording this, probably later today or by the time this episode goes up. Other stuff. I'm gonna get to rewatch Fondona as well. The long form essay video about the AI stuff, I'm gonna get working on that as well. The audience choice bit. Some other bits I'm gonna work on, like there's more reviews coming along. I'm figuring out some short form, long form ones. I'm gonna add another one to the list with Bad Boys, and seeing that last night. Most likely probably gonna go to Inside Out 2 sometime later this week with something important, but I'll get to working on that in particular and plan that out. And everything else seems to be that as well. Other bits wise stuff, I'm gonna get more gameplays recorded. I'm gonna get some other content working. I'm gonna look back at the list of stuff I had in mind to start working on to make for this channel, but I'll see when I get to it. But I think I've rambled on long enough and I'm fucking tired of talking, so yeah, that's where we're leaving the episode for now. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more from me and more frequently of all our content as well, then simply like the video and subscribe, as I'm looking to reach a goal for maybe the end of the year, maybe like 75 to 100 subs by the end of this year, but we'll have to see. It's a long process to stuff with things, but you know.
Dude, oh my god, dude.
Oh my... This can't be real.
I need to sit down.
This can't...
Pam, we need to take this to the grave. We cannot tell anybody. This changes literally this changes everything.
Nah, I know. We can never tell. We can never tell.
I might
anyone.
actually puke. Get back a little. I'm gonna puke. Stay back.
Oh my.
I'm gonna throw up.
Okay.
Also, let me know your thoughts on everything that was announced this week down below. Like, what did you think of the new releases? Have you seen any of them? You enjoyed any of them? Disliked any of them? Your opinions on the trailers and your thoughts on everything that was discussed in the news. I know I talked quick with the Games Fest stuff, but there was a lot to talk about, so I apologize if it's a bit confusing to hear. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. So thank you for watching, and of course, as always, you all stay being wonderful people, because you all are wonderful people. Have a great day every day, and of course, keep being you, because no one else can do what you do. And also remember to take care of yourself, because it's important to do in this day and age, because, you know, mental health is an important factor. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. So take care everyone, and goodbye.